Let's go back to the fall of 2007. The long-awaited Simpsons movie finally released over the summer, and Simpsons fans are on top of the world, debating whether it was the best or worst thing ever. And the Simpsons staff are free from the shackles of film production. They can finally focus entirely on the TV series again. It's party time! Let's fill season 19 full of wacky romps and fun adventures. What's this? An episode where Homer may have hit Marge? And Bart and Lisa killed Martin? And Bart caused Sideshow Bob's death? Wait, now Mona's dead? And Lisa's killing her lungs? Wow, didn't expect them to go in such a dark direction after the movie. Someone get M. Night on the phone, because wow, what a twist. Season 19 is the year of betrayal and lies. Now obviously, deception plays a key role in a lot of Simpsons plots. You can't have the characters being open with each other all the time, or else their problems would be resolved in the middle of Act 2. However, Season 19 is extremely heavy in stories about characters actively keeping a secret, or will feature some kind of shocking betrayal or blindside. After all, this is the year with The Departed in it, a parody all about lies and betrayals. And, as mentioned earlier, we have plots where Bart and Lisa cover up a Martin accident, as well as Sideshow Bob faking his death for a murder scheme. Plots are getting twistier this year, featuring big reveals at the climax. Like Eternal Moonshine of the Simpsons Mine tees up a very disturbing suggestion, sending Homer through the ringer as he searches his memories for the truth. In each of these examples, the twist snaps back to the status quo. That of course Martin and Sideshow Bob aren't dead. That, don't worry, Marge was just planning a surprise party. The one exception to this rule is Mona Leavesa, which actually did kill Mona Simpson off, but even that example serves up a midpoint twist, betraying Homer's expectations with one final environmental scheme. That Mona sure was good at planning. Of course, not every deception in Season 19 is life or death. It's full of smaller white lies too, that drive the action. Homer lies about being unemployed to his family. Homer lies about getting surgery to keep Marge interested in him. Marge breaks her promise to visit this guy in prison. Lisa hides her secondhand smoking habit, and when caught, they hide it from Marge. Homer cheats on his diet, and Marge hires a reality show to track them down. Even their Trails of Horror features a story about Bart harboring an alien that betrays him, and then a Mr. and Mrs. Smith parody all about hidden secrets. There is so much lying in Season 19, they did an entire episode about it. There's no sense of loyalty in Season 19. Everyone is out for themselves, and will happily backstab to get what they want. Lisa is all too eager to sideline Krusty and steal his show. Springfield is ready to nominate Ralph Wiggum for president just to get the media out of their hair. Marge's douchey professor uses his influence to plant seeds about Homer. Lurleen Lumpkin's father steals her song and gets rich with the Dixie Chicks. Bart literally steals a cow from a feedlot and is going to marry Mary just to save it. And then that story ends with a sneaky switcheroo. The only loyalty in Season 19 is to a cow. Everyone else is ready to throw everyone under the bus. You know what? Homer's tow truck is pissing us off. Let's get him kidnapped by Matt Dillon. Naturally, the sneaky, deceptive nature results in a plethora of danger plots that threaten their lives. Homer lying to Marge results in him landing a plane. Mona deceiving Homer puts him in grave danger. Sideshow Bob's scheme almost succeeds in Bart being burned alive. Homer's obsessive fan tries to kill him during an opera, and the family has to stop her. Even when Homer's ready to end it all, they have Patty and Selma giving him a helpful shove. This isn't the only time they tried killing him either. Season 19 is heavy on bank robberies too, thanks to this episode and their Bonnie and Clyde parody. A lot of holding people at gunpoint going on this year. Thankfully, Season 19 backed off the blank it's a job angle. Homer's tow truck is the most stereotypical and arbitrary of the bunch, very much in the vein of the last go-round. As for Marge, she finds success with her gym catering to women. However, when it comes to job plots, they lean more into the entertainment business. Homer discovers a hidden talent as an opera singer, and back in the 90s, basically invented grunge. Is there any genre of music Homer hasn't made his mark on? Bart and the Bullies get to play the role of the Sex Pistols in their anthology episode. And late in the year, Lisa flexes her creative muscles twice, making a documentary and becoming a clown. If The Simpsons isn't taking on new jobs themselves, they're seeking self-improvement. Marge goes to college, and Lisa takes ballet, for example. They hired 3 specialized consultants this year, a life coach to give Homer some direction, a mommy coach to teach Maggie independence, and a nutritionist to design a diet. Actually, now that I think about it, Homer kinda went through it health-wise. Marge put him on another diet with catastrophic consequences, and he got his stomach stapled in that other episode. Season 19 loves itself some food plots. Especially early on, they seem to constantly be hanging out in restaurants or wanting to go out to eat. If you like placemat mazes, this is the year for you. Homer gets to indulge himself a few times, most notably in Dial N for Nerder, when he has nasty food sex in the shower. Wow, surprised there was something weirder than his secret basement jerky. Wait a minute, what is this room? Is this where the mysterious cellar doors went? We also have Apocalypse Cow, which Lisa tries turning into Bart the Vegetarian, but it never quite sticks. It does provide commentary about the practices of the beef industry, but Bart's only interested in saving the cow he personally knows. This is not an especially satirical year of The Simpsons in general. Its stories tend to focus on the personal journey rather than the big picture. And the topics tend to be more about specific niche communities, like the stress that ballet puts on dancers' mental health, the buzzy film festival scene, relearning that important lesson: don't trust people in the music business. I would argue that the weirdest episode, stylistically, is E Pluribus Wigum, which shoves the characters aside to do that big political satire. It's like all the satire got quarantined into this episode. This is a bit easier to latch onto for general audiences, as we've all been pummeled with 24-hour news cycles and constant political jockeying. It's kind of like that documentary episode and how trend-chasey it is. I'm personally shocked that power-hungry political parties and ratings-chasing media companies would coalesce behind the dumbest possible candidate. Ralph does have a pure heart, so I suppose I get his appeal. I like how this was made in 2007, seemingly before The Simpsons realized Obama was about to steamroll everyone. I can't tell if this Hillary joke has aged amazingly well or is a total relic. Also, hey, it's Dennis Kucinich. That guy sure was short. Season 19's style of humor is largely a blend of situation comedy and random pop culture references. It's a year where they're name-dropping Mitzi Gaynor, Shia LaBeouf, The Negotiator, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. That 90s show is essentially a grab bag of every 90s reference The Simpsons didn't get around to the first time. Say what you want about that episode, but I will always love that Marvin Cobain Back to the Future gag. It is so silly. Also, shout out to the sick Pirates of the Caribbean 3 burn. Back in the old Gene and Reese days, they had a reputation for getting super referential and doing a lot of parodies. Season 19 does feel more like that stylistically, where their Halloween special has very direct parodies of E.T. and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, then doing an anthology episode where they can hit up 3 more, then doing entire film parodies for 2 more episodes. Other episodes will suddenly turn into homages of Casablanca, Columbo, or James Bond. These pivots can feel jarring, and some of the parodies paint by numbers, but it never feels oppressive or overbearing. They hit a nice balance overall. Interestingly, despite all the references, this is not an especially TV-heavy year. There are a couple very TV-centric examples where it factors into the plot. Remember TiVo? But, unlike in Season 3 and 4, they weren't apt to segue with a family on the couch joke. Probably the most notable TV watching examples were their Itchy and Scratchies and this surprisingly lengthy Transformers parody. If they're not doing referential humor, then they're probably doing wordplay jokes. Oh man, the wordplay in this season. It's like Merriam-Webster sponsored this thing. They're debating dissection versus vivisection. Lisa's arguing about Homer's use of avenge. Cheering for burnt cream. Marge impressed by his correct usage of bitch. And how about their many acronyms? If you recognize the acronyms NDC, CRIE, MILK, NERD, PhD, JERKY, and DQAT, then that means YHWSNTM. My favorite wordplay joke is when Marge is saving the last bits of ketchup, Lisa asks if she does it with relish, and Marge replies, "No, I'm kind of embarrassed about it." That joke really cut the mustard. I think season 19 is a bit stronger in the humor department than the previous couple years. I mean, it provided 3 fairly popular internet memes, especially by post-classic Simpsons standards. Say what you want about Husband and Knives and its bizarre final act, but it will always be remembered for this moment. My biggest knock against the jokes is that they're almost too down-to-earth. The plots are very twisty and subversive, but the jokes rarely are. It's like they've totally forgotten the art of the screw the audience joke. Like, okay, Homer's kicking this couch instead of Marge during their gunfight. Ooh, Nelson's burning ants instead of investigating. This guy wasn't actually pointing to his crotch. It's not Steve Buscemi stalking Marge this time, it's actually Moe. Oh god. But you see what I mean? Pretty weak. David Merkin is rolling over in his grave right now. It's not a particularly surreal season either. We have Eternal Moonshine, which treats us to tons of fantastical dream sequences and references, but other than that, season 19 doesn't go for tons of thought bubbles and fantasies. One of the things I enjoyed about season 18 was how stylish it was visually, doing all these choreographed musical numbers, POV sequences, and playing with the format. Feels like season 19 blew its wad with Eternal Moonshine, and the rest will rely more on plot twists to keep us engaged. Probably my favorite fantasy is when Homer actually gets one of his thought bubbles correct, with this think tank. Okay, that's a good screw the audience joke. I'm sorry for dogging you guys. We are still quite firmly in the Al Jean music montage era, but it's falling off a bit. We would get the standard ones like Homer and Bart collecting coins, Marge being stalked, Homer being stalked, that kind of stuff. A couple music memorials. I'm a big fan of this I'm shipping up to Boston homage. But we're getting these smaller bite-sized musical moments too. Just a few bars of closing time or that let's make lots of money song to get the point across. I prefer season 19's diegetic music much more. How we get music-centric plots like Lurleen Lumpkin, the Sex Pistols parody, Homer's opera singing, and all the sadgasm numbers. This year gave Homer plenty of opportunities to shine musically. We didn't get a true musical episode like the last couple years, but they definitely flirted with it, randomly breaking into song. In terms of its guest stars, season 19 provides an appealing mix of new original characters and celebrities playing themselves. Some of them got featured spotlights, like Stephen Colbert, Matt Dillon, Steve Buscemi, Topher Grace, and Zooey Deschanel. Then you have Maya Rudolph and Jack Black popping in for smaller parts. Shout out to Julia Louis-Dreyfus for coming back to play Glory again. Love her dedication. Beverly D'Angelo and Glenn Close reprised their roles, as well as the Frasier crew, bringing John Mahoney this time. Season 19 doesn't have a big celebrity show-off episode, just sprinkling a few into their showbiz episodes. Alan Moore, Art Spiegelman, and Daniel Clowes taking it to Comic Book Guy. Jon Stewart and Dan Rather covering the election, Weird Al and Kurt Loder in the 90s, and Jim Jarmusch and John C. Reilly at Sundance. The Dixie Chicks shows up in the Lurleen episode. We also get random Lionel Richie, Ted Nugent, Keith Olbermann, Terry Gross, Lance Armstrong, and Drew Carey. Probably my least favorite cameo was Placido Domingo's. Just awkward and indulgent, like a precursor to their Disney Plus shorts. Ew. Let's get that bad taste out of our mouths. It's time for the secondary character stock watch. So the last few years have been all about the rise of Moe, king of secondary character mountain. And yeah, he had a solid season 19, erasing Homer's memory, making exotic drinks, and wanting to sniff Homer's butt. During the dog segment, geez. But they're not stopping at Moe's as often to check in this year. Hell, I would argue that Lenny and Carl steal some of his thunder. At least they become Homer's entourage and get involved politically. Love this Lenny joke where his mom only wants to talk to Carl. No, the king of the secondary characters came way out of nowhere. It's Nelson. He is all over this thing, highlighted in so many episodes. He's part of 2 different pranking crews, falls in love with Milhouse, falls in love with Drugs and Lisa, solves a mystery as Columbo, raises a cow, makes a successful documentary, and wins a job with Krusty. Well, kinda. Even without a spotlight episode like last time, Nelson bullies the season with all his cameos. There's an argument that Wiggum deserved this title more, as the danger plots and gunplay gives him an excuse to get involved. He doesn't actively participate in these plots like Nelson, but he does arrest like 6 different characters this year. Some good material with Ralph too, getting a taste of his parenting style. Ralph benefited a lot this year from E Pluribus Wiggum, and also got the rat symbolizes obviousness, so a strong showing for our past and future president. I like how they utilize Krusty overall, giving him the finale spotlight and popping in for a dozen quick gags. His banter with Jon Stewart was pretty weird though. Mr. Burns bounced back this year, making a strong statement at the beginning and coming back big time after Mona's death. Milhouse enjoyed his own spotlight episode and continuity change, and played in important roles in a couple others, but was otherwise invisible. Skinner and Chalmers got hard carried by The Departed and Any Given Sundance, starting up Chalmskin and mixing it up with Bart. Otherwise, it's a pretty mediocre year for them, just a couple minor notable appearances. Springfield Elementary really only got featured in 3, maybe 4 episodes. That's why I think Groundskeeper Willie is the biggest loser of the year. Yeah, he was great in this one, I'll give you that. But that's really it for him. Just another minor villain role and dealing with scrap. A disappointing follow-up to a solid season 18. Ned Flanders had another crappy year, only getting attention in the Halloween and anthology episodes. It's just sad how irrelevant he is these days. He mostly exists to randomly get abused by Homer or Bart. I was also disappointed by Grandpa. He's tangentially related to these stories, but strictly in tiny supportive roles. His ex-wife literally died, and he gets like 2 lines. As for the Simpson family itself, let's start with Lisa. She had the most interesting year, in my opinion. This might contain the most edgy Lisa ever, in terms of her story selection. She's all paranoid and covering up manslaughter, she's addicted to chocolate and secondhand smoke, she's backstabbing Krusty and becoming an applause addict. Even in supporting roles, she's stealing a cow and going to hell. The most standard Lisa story is Any Given Sundance, but even that one, she humiliates her family. Personally, my biggest issue with Lisa characterization in general is when they make her the morality police. So I think this is an amazing Lisa year, presenting significant challenges and letting her struggle with the issues. Huge improvement over last go-round. Bart dominated season 18, for better or worse, and somehow he ran it back with another strong showing. What's cool about Bart this time is the sheer variety he displays. He gets mischievous storylines, like Dial N for Nerder and The Departed, a bit of danger from Sideshow Bob, a couple fun disposable B-plots with Homer, but they show off his softer side too, like in Little Orphan Millie and Apocalypse Cow. They did a good job finding stuff for him to do, and not totally shutting him out of others' episodes. Bart can be kind of an asshole this year, but he's an asshole who cares. Homer's season 19 is largely defined by his relationship with Marge. Sure, he'll get a life coach and will try his hand at opera and grunge, but these topics are primarily vehicles to explore their relationship. Homer's marital journey does go to some dark places, but this is the exception rather than the rule. They'll give them 3 silly anthology segments, Homer forgetting her eye color or him cheating on his diet. Homer makes mistakes and can be a neurotic mess, but generally they keep things light. I also appreciate they fit in those side adventures with Bart, Reminds me of the old Scully days. And finally, Mona Simpson passes away this year, and it gives Homer the opportunity to work through his conflicted feelings. I don't think they stick the landing in the second half, but they hit upon something real that would haunt Homer. I like the depth that this provides to Homer, in an otherwise fluffy year. As for Marge, I think of this as being the Marge mind game season, as most of her stories involve some level of neuroticism or indecisiveness. She agonizes over her promise to Steve Buscemi, gets mind screwed by this professor guy, gets obsessed with TiVo, and is deeply suspicious of Homer cheating on his diet. She has extremely complex feelings toward Lurleen Lumpkin, and Maggie becomes so independent that Marge is reduced to cradling a bag of potatoes. I just think this B-plot is neat. Marge does get her time to shine, like with her successful gym business and saving Bart's cow. It's not all Marge neuroticism and guilt traps in season 19, only mostly. I should also shout out Maggie, who shares that B-plot with Marge and saves the day in the end. Maggie often gets lost in the shuffle, and I appreciate that season 19 throws her a bone here or there. As a whole, I think season 19 is a significantly stronger effort than the previous two. And the main contributing factor is its strong characterization. I really don't have that many gripes about how the Simpson family is written this year. Bart's not getting dragged through the dirt, Homer's not being a giant jerkass, Lisa's not the moralistic know-it-all, Marge isn't nagging the plot. By doing all these twisty narratives full of betrayals, it's allowing them to push and pull our favorites in new directions. The characters get to drive the majority of these stories, and it's rare that they pull something where I don't buy their motivations. Season 19 reminds me a lot of Season 6, in terms of how many sneaky mystery plots there are. It has a strong sense of intrigue, hooking the audience about what's gonna happen next. But the stories are smaller in scope and more character-driven, feeling somewhat stylistically like a Season 3 episode. It's like if, during Season 3, they tried to write a Season 6 episode. Does that make any sense at all? I think I'm saying that Season 19 feels like Black Widower. This is a very Black Widower-coded season. I am confident I am brain-rotted at this point after so many of these retrospectives, so I'll be back next time with the top 10 episodes from Season 19. To be honest, I still have no idea what's going to land at number 1. I know everyone expected a runaway for one standout, but this is currently a very close 3-horse race. Place your bets now. As always, thanks for watching.